Sleepy history of London. What lies beneath Trafalgar Square? Settle in. Let your shoulders relax. Let the day drift away. London has always been loud on the surface, but it has never truly been noisy underneath. Beneath its streets, beneath its monuments, beneath the places where crowds gather and history is celebrated, the city sleeps. And nowhere is this more true than beneath Trafalgar Square. Tonight, we move slowly. We move downward. Not with shovels or machines, but with memory. Above us, the square is quiet. The fountains murmur like distant rain. Nelson stands high against the sky, forever gazing outward. The lions rest, unmoving, their stone bodies warmed by centuries of sunlight and soot. But under these stones, under these familiar shapes, lies another London, an older London, a layered London, a London that remembers everything. Long before there was a square, before there was a city, this land was water and mud and sky. Before London had a name thousands of years ago, Trafalgar Square did not exist. Neither did London. The land was soft, marshy, and alive with reeds. The Thames was wider then, wandering slowly across its floodplain. Mist rose from the river at dawn, blurring the world into gentle shapes. Small groups of people lived nearby. They moved with the seasons. They left behind almost nothing, no stone monuments, no written records, only faint traces pressed into the earth. A footprint filled with rain, a fire pit darkening the soil, a dropped tool that sank quietly into mud. The ground beneath Trafalgar Square remembers these moments, even if we do not. It remembers bare feet, wooden spears, animal skins drying in the breeze. This was not a place of power yet. It was a place of survival, a place of rest. Time passed slowly then. The land changed its shape, but it did not forget. The Romans arrive when the Romans came. They brought straight lines into a curved world, roads, walls, order. They built Londinium a little east of Trafalgar Square, but their influence spread outward like ripples in water. Roman engineers reshaped the landscape. Paths hardened into roads. Temporary camps became permanent structures. Near what would one day become Trafalgar Square, Roman citizens walked, traded, argued, and lived their ordinary lives. They dropped coins without noticing. They broke pottery and swept the pieces aside. They buried their dead beyond the city's edge. Centuries later, fragments of Roman tile and brick would be found beneath the square. Not grand statues, not treasures, just everyday objects, the quiet leftovers of life. When the Romans left Britain, they did not take their city with them. Londinium faded, buildings collapsed, roads cracked. Nature returned gently, covering stone with soil, memory with silence. The ground beneath Trafalgar Square closed its eyes and kept watch, a city that shrinks and grows. The Saxon period was not loud here. London became smaller, quieter. Wooden buildings replaced stone, fires burned low. Life continued, but without the scale of empire. This area remained on the edge, not central, not important. Just land that people passed through. And yet, every century added a layer. Each generation left something behind: ashes from hearths, broken tools, lost jewelry, footprints pressed into damp ground. Nothing dramatic, nothing meant to last. And yet it all did. London is not built on one city. It is built on many, sleeping on top of each other. The King's Mews. By the medieval period, this land belonged to the crown. It became known as the King's Mews. At first, it was not a place for horses, but for birds. Royal falcons were kept here, prized for hunting. Imagine it: early morning light, leather gloves, the soft rustle of feathers, tiny bells ringing as hawks shifted on their perches. This was a place of controlled power. The birds were symbols of dominance over nature, trained to return, trained to obey. Their cries echoed softly across the land that would one day hold cheering crowds. Later, the hawks moved on, but the name remained. The mews became stables. Horses replaced birds. The soundscape changed: hooves on stone, breath steaming in cold air, harnesses creaking. Royal horses stood where tourists now gather. Coaches rolled in and out, carrying kings and queens to ceremonies and conflicts. Servants worked quietly. Power passed through, rarely stopping. Then came fire. Fire and ash. In 1534, flames consumed the King's Mews. Fire has always been London's companion. It reshapes the city again and again. The stables burned, roofs collapsed, smoke drifted into the sky, ash settled into the soil, sealing one chapter and preparing the ground for another. The mews were rebuilt, but nothing lasts forever in London. Eventually, even royal stables became outdated. The city was changing. Empire was growing. London wanted grandeur. The land was cleared. What had once been a working space full of animals and labor became an empty canvas. A square is born. The early 19th century was a time of confidence. Britain had power. Britain wanted symbols. Admiral Horatio Nelson died at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805, victorious and mortal. The nation needed a place to remember him. They chose this cleared land. Stone by stone, Trafalgar Square took shape. The ground was leveled. Foundations were dug deep, cutting through centuries of history. Objects were displaced, but not destroyed. They were pushed aside, deeper into the dark. Nelson's column rose slowly, climbing toward the sky. The lions arrived later, massive and calm, cast from melted cannons, instruments of war transformed into guardians of peace. Above ground, the square became a symbol. Below ground, history rearranged itself and went back to sleep. The Victorian underground. The Victorians dug London open. They built sewers, tunnels and pipes, transforming the city into a living system. Beneath Trafalgar Square, workers carved channels through clay and stone. Some tunnels were mapped carefully. Others were improvised and later forgotten. Water flowed where people once walked. Waste was carried away. Electricity lines followed. The underground became crowded, layered, and alive. And still, beneath even that, older London's waited. War beneath the lions during the Second World War, London shook, bombs fell, buildings burned. Nights were long and frightening. Trafalgar Square survived, but nearby streets were damaged. People went underground. Shelters filled with fear and breath and whispered prayers. Some tunnels near the square were reinforced. Others collapsed and were sealed, becoming accidental tombs of air and silence. Above ground, the lions stood unmoved. Below ground, Londoners learned how to sleep through explosions. The ground absorbed everything: fear, hope, noise, silence. The modern square. After the war, life returned. Trafalgar Square became a gathering place again. Protests, parades, celebrations, mourning. Millions passed through without knowing what lay beneath them. Occasionally, archaeologists returned renovations, uncovered fragments, a wall, a shoe sole, a coin worn smooth by time. Each discovery was handled gently, like waking someone too suddenly. Most of the past was left untouched, not lost, just resting. Secrets and silence. London loves rumors. Hidden bunkers, secret passages, government tunnels. Some stories are exaggerated. Some are true in quieter ways. There are locked rooms underground that no one uses anymore. Service tunnels, sealed and forgotten. Spaces that exist only on old maps. London does not erase its mistakes or its history. It stores them. Beneath Trafalgar Square, the city breathes slowly. A city that dreams at night. When the square empties, something changes. The fountains whisper. The stone cools. The air softens. Beneath it all, Roman London rests beside medieval London. Victorian London hums quietly next to wartime London. Modern cables weave through ancient soil. They do not argue. They do not rush. They simply exist. London is not only alive, it is asleep. And under Trafalgar Square, the city dreams of rivers and hawks, of horses and fire, of war and peace, of footsteps that came and went, leaving nothing behind but memory pressed gently into the earth. So stand still for a moment. Listen carefully. History is not gone. It is just resting beneath your feet.